At the beginning of the film, a child named Jim is born with such a weak immune system that exposure to even a small amount of germs could be deadly. That's why he must remain completely isolated from touching anything without sterilization, and his parents were forced to put him inside a plastic ball to live in for his entire life. And tell him, what's the problem with raising her this way? Because she's obsessed with hygiene. And she didn't allow her son to live in the house until he was 4 years old. They had prepared a room with a plastic ball where he could live, move, and explore its surroundings. And the bowl was prepared with plastic so his mother could touch it, and she was sterilizing all his toys to keep them free of germs. And Jim continues to live inside the bubble, and his mother is always afraid of the outside world, so he never tries to leave. She always used to tell him stories and change the endings with the heroes dying because of their departure from home. And Jimmy is not allowed to watch TV except on one channel only, and to read only one magazine. And implanted in Jimmy, she's the only one in the world who loves him, even though she never touched him except through the plastic gloves she uses to embrace him. He cut his hair because the nation was politically extreme, teaching all the ideas it believed in. And yet, poor Jim only knows his mom's ideas and believes in them. Everyone in the town knows about the bubble boy and talks about him. So kids would go to his house, wrap themselves in plastic bags, and keep mocking Jimmy repeatedly. And then they chase them away every now and then. The food that Jimmy eats has to be made by his mom herself, and she puts it through a sterilization process before it's served. To be free from those who study, Jim was now 16 years old, living normally inside his bubble from his and his mother's perspective, just like any other child. One day, standing by the window, he saw my daughter named Chloe. Every time he sees her, he just keeps looking, but there's nothing else he can do because he knows nothing about girls. His mother felt a deep love for him and told him a story about a boy she met for the first time. But in college, she could watch Chloe from the window until she noticed he was looking at her. Chloe has a group of friends she hangs out with, and she heard them mocking Jimmy, calling him bubble chest, but she was annoyed by them. One day she went to the mosque house and her father allowed her in. She entered and saw the pipe system everywhere in the house. Amazed, I played with the marbles until I reached everyone. As soon as he sees her, he's surprised and stressed because his mom, the only woman he talks to, told Jimmy she likes the guitar and wants him to teach her. Jimmy teaches her guitar using plastic hands, and Chloe kept visiting Jimmy every day, offering her time. But his mother didn't like his friendship with Chloe and couldn't kick her out. Then Akbari gave Jimmy a guinea pig and a bubble for his birthday, threw him a party, and invited the kids in Ain Halin. One day Chloe entered Jimmy's room through the window and tried to enter Jimmy's bubble under the pretext that she couldn't stay away from him, but she fainted before she could enter. Every day she goes to Jimmy with a friend named Mark, and she introduces him to Jimmy, but Mark mocks Jimmy, bullies him, and offers him a cigarette, but Jimmy doesn't know it. On the second day, Chloe went with Jimmy and showed him her engagement ring with Mark, saying their wedding party would be at the end of the week at Chloe Falls. A feeling brings me disappointment, trying not to show it. And Chloe presented Jenna with a gift, putting it inside the sterilizer, but Jenna ignored the gift and returned the guinea pig to her, asking her to leave. Her heart is upset and her eyes are filled with tears. Then Jimmy goes to open the box and finds a snowball with the words "I love you" written on it. Jimmy is delighted and shouts her name. And he decided to go to Niagara Falls to stop Chloe's wedding, and kept trying to make a scene in the hall so he could get out with it. At night he wakes up and leaves the house without his uncle's mother knowing. And Jimmy was happy to get out and see the outside world, and went Gimel and we put minute this. But with the bus ticket, he returned upset, yet counting the journey a waste. But the bubble protected him, and the guys got off the bus and offered to take Jamie home. Jamie gratefully accepted, but when he got on the bus, he knew they were part of a radical religious sect, so he defied them and angered them, and the youths ran out of the bus. And when they arrive at their place of worship, he tells them of their anger that the Savior and Redeemer of humanity, according to their religion, Muslim, will have my leg inside a spherical ball. The group believes that Jamie is the savior. Here they went back to look for him, and at that time, Jamie's father, whose name is Salim, Jimmy told him he wanted to go to his girlfriend to save her from marrying someone else, and Salim told him it reminded him of old love. It's to show a picture that fits his body, and we call it fire in the Hashemah. And he admired Jimmy's determination and insistence and took him on his motorcycle to show him the waterfalls near Jimmy's house. His parents discovered and agreed and decided to search for him themselves because the police would not start searching until after 24 hours. Jimmy and Aslam stop and enter a place to relax with only 2 days left until Kanuri's wedding. And Salim said he won't move until morning. But Jimmy left Salim and stole his motorcycle and fled. And after a long while, his mother and father see him, they got confused. They try to stand, but end up crashing their cart. And above, jumping fast, enters a train and finds himself among a group of people looking strange and making weird flowers. It turns out they were captured by a dwarf named Dr. Freak, who decides to take Gina for his shows and flees. But the bubble threw the section far away and the group was freedom. And Jimmy reached the Grove Avenue via the Iron Sugar scooter but got tired and couldn't anymore. So he decided to enter a restaurant and asked for someone to take him. But when they asked him about the bubble, the important thing is he doesn't have any of it. Thinking Jimmy has a contagious disease, they got scared and fled the place. And chaos happens, and the restaurant burns down, and an Indian named Drinks agrees. Yes. Subscribe to the channel. We said Jimmy will meet Dr. Freak at the train and told her that Jimmy is running to Shanelatni. So she calls Kenny Azaak for her and said that she caused Jimmy to escape from the house. But Holly speaks, the strange show team steals their car and escapes. They end up drinking on their way and hit a cow. He cries because he's crossing cars, but Jimmy told him, my mother taught me that without you it's pointless. He gets angry with heat and leaves Jimmy and walks away. And Jimmy's stride goes on until he arrives and boards the Salvation. He meets an old man named Bebe who asks for a ride. Bebe agrees to take him to Niagara Falls. And Jim wakes up in the morning to find Bebe still driving. He discovers he is asleep while driving and causes a big accident, crashing into a billboard. Then he goes to a supermarket and calls Chloe. But Mark was the one who answered the phone and told Gino it was pointless what he was doing, and the wedding was less than an hour away. Feeling collected, he called his mother asking her to come pick him up at home. When his mother arrived, they got into the car, but on their way, they stopped for his mother to use the restroom. His father approached me, asking how I felt about him leaving the house. He told Jimmy never to give up and to fight for his love. Then Jimmy ran away again, and after his mother came out of the restroom, she found out that Jimmy had escaped. I followed them with my car, and at the same time, the worship group on the bus wanted to collect £1. Because he was their savior, he also arrived safely, along with a group of motorcyclists who came to help everyone. His beloved, and as Islam looked ahead, he saw hell. It turns out it was an old figure known as Fire in the Straw. It turned out they were all following a modern aviation plan, and there was still a plane in flight that launched an attack, challenging the old pilot. They requested a drop-off, and the pilot agreed. They left the waterfall, and the plane crashed, but luckily, Jimmy's airbag saved him from drowning, and Fate emerges from the waters and reaches the church. Just as Chloe and Mark were about to tell their spouse, Gino enters and they reach a hidden family secret for Chloe that he loves her. And because this is his last chance to convince her, he expresses the danger himself, cuts through the bubble and comes out of it. And the first thing they scream at him, and just like he obeys, trying to market it. Gino's mother reaches his father, and she is saddened by her proximity to death, without his father telling her he had to make you known to Noy and everyone else. She feels embarrassed on his behalf and says that his madness is not a disease. And she did that only out of fear for him to protect him from the world's evils. And suddenly Jimmy surpasses, realizing his mother had been winning over him all these years. But he forgives his mother, knowing she did it out of love for him. And embrace O'Clery and everyone under his roof. And after a while, Jimmy O'Clery surpasses and announces their wedding, each one whom Jimmy had introduced in his journey. And that's the end of the movie. Thank you for watching.